Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh lecture in our course Poetry. Today, we're going to talk about a different or the second major age that we're going to cover during um, our progress in this course. Previously, we were talking about the medieval ages and the importance of the medieval ages of such ages for the uh, English literature in general because it witnessed the establishment of what we currently call English literature, and this is establishment was basically attributed to the poems, poetry, for the poems that Geoffrey Chaucer wrote, and when we said that we said that Geoffrey Chaucer is the father of the English literature, and the reason behind this is that he was the first one to write poetry. Sorry for interruption, but again, when we talk about Geoffrey Chaucer, we name him or we call him the father of English literature, and the reason behind that is that Geoffrey Chaucer is the first one who writes poetry using English language, and we must focus on this point because at that time, uh, the British Islands were under the occupation of the French, under the French occupation or the Normandy occupation, and at that time, the language that was prestigious and most spoken among the elites of the community was the French language, not the English language. And the English language was the vernacular that was spoken by the ordinary uneducated people. So Geoffrey Chaucer used this vernacular in order to write his poem Canterbury Tales. Now, in order to move to the Elizabethan age of literature. Generally speaking, when we talk about the Elizabethan age, it's the age that was governed by Queen Elizabeth, okay, from 1558 to 1603. Now, some basic foundations we need to lay the in order we need to put some basics, some baselines in order to go further in our discussion here. First of all, Queen Elizabeth followed her sister Queen Mary. Queen Elizabeth followed her sister Queen Mary. And we need to make a small differentiation between Elizabeth and Mary here. I want you to remember in the previous lecture we talked about some characteristics of some socio-political characteristics and how some major turning points contributed to shaking the Christian beliefs or the Christian Catholic domination over people. Okay, the first thing was the Black Plague or Black Death or the plague and the spread of printing. Okay, and more copies of the Bible were available for the audience. Such things were such things embarked or started or unleashed some movements of reformation and correction within the Catholic Church. Such movements were basically at the very basic point were attempts to reconstruct, okay, reform the Catholic Church. But eventually, at the end of the day, such movement ended up by having another branch or another party of Christianity, which is the Protestant. Until this age, until the Reformation age, that was led by Martin Luther at that time. Basically, we had only one form, or one branch, or one party of Christianity, basically, which is the Orthodox, which is the oldest version of Christianity, which is mainly adopted by the Christians of the East. When we're talking about the Christians of the East, we're talking about the eastern part of Europe and the Middle East. You can include that. But after that, after the division of the Roman Empire into the eastern and western, where the eastern was represented in Constantinople, adopted the kept the beliefs, or the old beliefs of Christianity, which was after that name called the Orthodox, and the uh, Western Roman Empire adopted something new in Christianity, which is the Catholic. And after that, after the Reformation, and the Reformation campaign that was unleashed, or that was started by Martin Luther at that time, which basically, again, it was a process of reformation, or correcting sorry, it was an attempt for internal reformation within the Catholic Church, but at that time it resulted in having a new branch of Christianity, which is the Protestantism. So at this time, even at the western part of Europe, أوروبا الغربية, at the western part of Europe, we started to have Catholics and Protestants, Catholics and Protestants. And here is one of the major differences between Mary and Elizabeth. Mary was basically Catholic, okay, where at that time, even before the time of Mary, and during the time of Elizabeth, the British community started to see and witness some of those religious and political changes. Some of the British or English community started to adopt the Catholic Christianity, and others were, sorry, so some of them kept their Catholic beliefs, and some of the English community started to adopt the new beliefs that are represented in the Protestant beliefs. Mary, the queen that preceded Queen Elizabeth, was mainly called Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary, due to her constant torturing for the Christians and the new Christians at that time, the Protestants, who were adopting Protestantism within the British community, in an attempt to keep the Catholic shape, or in an attempt to keep the Catholic form of the British community. Okay. Queen Elizabeth was the opposite. Queen Elizabeth adopted what? Adopted Protestantism. The new beliefs of Protestantism within the Christian Church, and she during her age, there was some sort of stabilization within the British community at that time, but the difference is, um, Queen Mary was chasing Protestants, and now Queen Elizabeth started to chase Catholics. So two sisters, they are sisters, but one is Catholic and the other is Protestant. Another thing that highly affected the development of English literature at that time, which is the Spanish Armada. And when we talk about the Spanish Armada, it is one of the turning points in history. In history, what happened there? During that age, during this battle, at that time, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, the most important and powerful kingdoms at that time were Spanish and Portugal. And the Spanish Armada was a naval battle between the uh, English Navy and the Spanish Navy. Okay, and for the first time England or the British Navy defeats the uh, Spanish Navy. And from that point, Spain started to lose its power in favor for England. Started to lose its power in favor of England, and from that point, since the Spanish Armada, and later on, England started to expand around the world. Okay, and the very first point and the very basic thing, the most important point here, the first direction was to the new world in the States or the America, United States, or what we call now North America, started to have its external or outside colonies in the new world, which is represented in America, and after that, it's expanded around the world. So at that time, during the era of Queen Elizabeth, the British nationalism or قومية البريطانية, the British nationalism started to flourish. Okay, what noteworthy that during the Elizabethan Age, some of the most important and most significant writers, dramatists, poets started to be witnessed there, as Sir Edmund, Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, and William Shakespeare. The Elizabethan age witnessed the flourishment of poetry that took the shape or the form of sonnets, the Spenserian sonnets and the Shakespearean sonnets, in addition to some other literary genres as drama. When we talk about the Elizabethan literature, the Elizabethan literature is remarkable for its exacting and brilliant achievements in the field of literature. Some of the literary productions that were produced during the Elizabethan age are considered the best of the literary production of the English literary production ever, as the Shakespearean sonnets and the Shakespearean drama. Here, I want to refer to this point here, that during this age, or a sudden black tone or darkening tone can be traced in the literary productions, especially in the Shakespearean drama, as something that is attributed to the fact that the English community at that time, during Mary Elizabeth, okay, and a little bit after Elizabeth, was witnessing at that time some massive and big changes. Like, we have a community that was adopting Christianity, Catholic Christianity, and then and then being involved in the struggle against the Catholic Church, and then some people started to convert to Protestantism, and after that, conflicts within the community started to erupt between Catholics and Protestants, and after that, we have a queen, Bloody Mary, was following or supporting the Catholics and the British community, and then we have a new queen who is supporting the Protestant community. So some changes were really considerable and big changes that there was reflected in the literature, in the black honest or the sad tone, in the literary production in general, and in the dramatic production in specific, and in addition to some, not all, some of the poetic productions of that time. And here I want to drag your attention to a point that whenever we talk about literature in general literature, and something that is more applicable for a novel more than any other literary genre, but generally speaking, in literature, we must think about literature as a reflection of the community. or as a reflection of the context. What does that mean? Whenever we have a flourishing literature, this must be the flourishment of the literature is in a way or another a reflection of the flourishment in the society. Okay, whenever we have a major theme or a major idea that is occupying the, that can be traced in the literary production of a specific age or a specific era, you can easily find that in such a domain or such an idea dominating it, dominating the community, which you can study or refer back in the books of history. And here, I want to refer you to the early points I was raising, the social and political changes that were I was talking about early in the lecture, like the transformation from the Catholic Church to the Protestant Church, and after that we have a queen that was adopting was following the Catholic Church, and then we have another new queen who is following the Protestant Church. One that at the first time the British Protestants were tortured and chased, and the second time the Catholics were all chased. This is one point. And at the moment at the point when I was talking about the Spanish Armada and the community, oh sorry, the point the naval battle that started or unleashed the British domination around the world. Okay, such changes or such facts led to the centricity or مركزية, the centricity of the British identity or the English identity at that time. So such things started to be reflected in the literature in a way that English literature started to be more and more written in the English language, which was just few years before that was just a vernacular, so was not the standard form of communication. It was not perceived as the elite's language, and the literary production started to answer and correspond to such changes that literary production started to be answering some questions about nationalism and dignity of that period. And here we want to refer to what we call the humanist effect, which was basically an attempt to upgrade the English language with the literary production in order to be consistent with the literary production and the socio-political events at that time. Again, we need to put this point in the context that English language was basically a vernacular and it didn't hold or contain most of the needed terms, terminology, and words that are supposed to be expressing most of the needed ideas. So, and this goes, so at that time, what we call the humanist, the humanist effect is that the English writers started to borrow some literary forms as they borrowed the Italian the sonnet from the Italians, and after that they normalized it according to their own way. Okay, as we can see that the Italian sonnet, there are some variations and differences between the Italian sonnet and the English sonnet and the Shakespearean sonnet and the Spenserian sonnet. Okay. Besides, the English writers were not feeling or having any problem in declaring that they are borrowing some ideas, they are borrowing some words and some terms from other languages, something that justifies the overlap or the double usage or double implication of some words in English, for example, in Italian or in the French language. Besides, we can have traced some ideas like Nicola Machiavelli's ideas that were represented in his book The Prince, and how such ideas started to be dominating, and how such ideas started to flourish within the European continent and within the British Islands as well.